Hey everyone, my name is Jazz, and today we're going to talk about some movement tips for box fighting, both basic and advanced. I'm today joined by David, aka Davs. He's a coach from. He's also a coach from Pro Guides, so I'm happy he's able to help me out today. As you can see, as you can see on your screen, you can see the topics that we'll be covering. And let's just get right into it. So we're gonna start off with some aggressive edits and how to move within those. So what I mean with that is, how should you move in your box when you're about to go for an aggressive edit? So in my last video, I covered it a little bit where you want to make sure that you move away from the edit itself before confirming the edit. So if you do this, you want to make sure to kind of crouch in this corner. So it's both important to move forward as well as to the left. So the left part is because of you don't want to be exposed, and the forward part is also about not being trapped under a ramp. So what I mean with that is, yeah, Davs, if you could show me. Hold up. Yes, down on there. So yeah, exactly. So if I move forward while he turbo's a ramp, so if I can see him, especially this happens with people that see this trick on YouTube or something, they're like, oh yeah, they're gonna edit the wall and they're gonna be trapped under the ramp. So if you see a guy like this, you know what they're doing. They're basically holding a ramp. So all you really have to do is move forward because you'll be phasing through the ramp. So make sure to move forward and to the left when you go for an aggressive edit. Alright, next up we'll be talking about camera angles and position. So this is basically about where are you looking when you're trying to place or edit, because it matters a lot. So what I mean with that is, especially the most basic example of this comes to mind when you're trying to place a wall here, but you're standing quite close to this line. Because when you're standing over here, when you place a wall, it'll place a lot further than you want it to. It'll place over there. So you want to make sure you look down when you're over here. So this is kind of the most basic version of this, but you want to keep this in mind for basically everything. So for example, yeah, Davs, take my wall. So if he takes your wall, you want to make sure you look down enough when you place your ramp, because if he goes for an edit, so maybe edit this corner, exactly. If you don't look down enough, the ramp is going to place right over here instead of under you. So you want to make sure you look down. Another topic that comes to mind, or another trick that comes to mind when we're talking about camera angles and positioning, is being able to place a backwards ramp. So like this. This is basically something that all pro players are doing, especially for reasons like this, where you don't own this wall, but you still want to run past it real quick. So you want to basically have short-term cover. So you want to do this, and in this case, there's a wall here. But if you want to keep moving, this is basically a very effective way to block off that side without having to do something like this. The nice thing about placing it like this is that you stay on the ground floor, so you don't get any like awkward editing, because you can basically just do that kind of edit. So placing it backwards. Oh, that's also true. Very, very true. Place your covered from above, in case. So imagine, yeah, place a floor in a cone above me. So imagine I want to get past here, then I can do this and I'm safe, at least temporarily, because obviously usually they're going to start spraying or something, but at least you will not get bopped in the head with a shotgun or something. So very good point. Number 3, we're going to be talking about defensive position. So this is kind of the opposite of making an aggressive edit. You want to make sure to stay alive. You just want to be defensive. So you basically want to be in the back of your box in this situation, because, for example, if Davs takes my wall, or if he wants to place a ramp through my box, now I can basically still, if this floor is mine, I can edit. I'd be able to edit down. I can still edit through here fairly easily. Well, if I'd be close, oh, hold up. So if I'd be closer, so go ahead, place the wall, then go for the edit. Now I'm basically trapped. I can't really move. Like, this edit's kind of awkward to do, and I'm very exposed when I do something like this. I guess technically it'd be possible to edit at the top or something, but it's just a lot safer to be able to be in the back here and edit your way down, or edit sideways over here. So keep that in mind when you're playing defensively. Another reason you want to be in the back is actually, it kind of bleeds into our next topic, which I called the ramp trick, but it's mainly a phasing thing. If you're in the back here, it gives you options to phase through your ramp like this. which is basically kind of a defensive edit because you're very protected when it comes to after you shoot your shot. Obviously, when you shoot your shot, you're technically not protected, but I mean, it's really easy to protect yourself afterwards. You can just jump, and you're basically safe again. And this ramp trick goes further than that. Most people know about it like offensively, but not a lot of people know about it defensively. So what I mean with that is when you fight against a really cracked creative kind of warrior kind of guy, or basically any good player that uses the Mongol Classic. So I think most of you guys will know what the Mongol Classic is, but it's basically, yeah, go ahead. There's a ramp over me, and then you edit the ramp, and then this is basically it. This is kind of an awkward angle for me to take, and it's a really good angle for him. So what I mean with using that phasing trick against him is basically when he does it, or when he goes for it, when you can tell, if you just make sure you're standing against the back wall here, so go ahead, then you can use it against him. So he does this, and usually people do not expect this at all. And again, it's kind of you're not too safe doing this. It's a lot easier to go for it if you know that you have kind of this as a backup here. So what I mean with that is if you know that you have a fully built box next to you, then it would kind of look like this. And in case he's not dead, you could just have an escape here. So again, it's not the most safe thing to do, but it works surprisingly well against good players because they just don't expect it at all. Alright, next up, topic number 5, keeping distance to avoid commitment. What I mean with this is basically, especially when you approach a box from a ramp like this, which 90% of the time you should be doing like this, is you don't want to be standing too close because it kind of buries you into this position. So what I mean with that is it's way easier for davs to trap me if I'm down here than if I'd be up here. So exactly, yeah. If I'm standing low, then he can basically cone me or even trap me. You can place a floor and then a trap. I don't think, you might not have picked up traps, but I'm basically trapped right now. So to avoid this, make sure you're standing high up on your ramp, because if you're standing up here, then you basically just phase straight through it. So you go up. Obviously, you have to go down a little bit to hit the wall if you want to pickaxe it. So you want to go down, but just make sure you kind of go back, pull out your shotgun, keep your distance, because it basically gives you an automatic escape. Also, being up here gives you a bit more freedom in moving around the box, because when you're up here, it's way easier to jump up here, as well as jumping to the sides. You can go here. It just basically gives you a bit more mobility, because if you're down here, then this jump, it takes a lot kind of longer because there's more distance you have to travel, or like more vertical distance. With this, it's more horizontal, and it's you're basically going further, so it's a bit better. The quick little tip that I didn't write down actually is there's basically 2 spots on top of here that you cannot get edited in on. So number 1 is on top of the walls itself, so like this, exactly. And number 2 is being exactly in the middle of this cone. Obviously, if you're standing up here for quite a long time, then they might try to break the cone or something to edit you in. But for temporary cases, you just want to be up here or down here. So, quick little tip I wanted to add, but nothing crazy or anything. Alright, next up, I want to talk about how to jump and when to jump. So I call it abusing jump, and that's mainly because when you jump, there's barely any audio that your opponent will be able to hear. So what I mean with that is, if I'm standing up here and I don't move, and then I jump to a direction, it's a lot harder for him to hear me going this direction than when I'm walking, because of the footsteps. So whenever you move like a significant distance, you want to make sure that you're jumping that distance. So if I'm standing up here, I want to jump this direction. If I'm standing over here, I want to jump over here. I want to jump like this. But the opposite is not true. You don't want to be jumping like while you're standing in one position, because of the strength of the jump, which is the low audio. So if you're using the jump, make sure to go far distances because of the audio. So abusing this jump has a lot of benefits. One clear example that comes to mind that I use a lot is basically, I'll jump up here and then I'll jump back. So I'll do this and then I'll go back like this. The reason this is good is basically because it has basically zero risk to it. And the benefit, the possible benefit at least, is that he tries to go for an edit at the exact right time for you and the wrong time for him. So the way that would look is basically if I do this and then I go back up here and he decides to go for an edit like that, and I jump back at the same time, it's going to be really awkward for him because he'll be looking up here while I won't be here at all. So if we do that full speed, hold up, yeah, go inside. Kind of want to repair your wall. So if we do this full speed, the way it would look is like this. As you can see, he's looking that direction, and then suddenly you're behind him. So this works great. Obviously, it's not going to work every time because quite often it really depends on if they're going to go for an aggressive edit like that. But there's no risk factor, so there's no harm in doing this. It doesn't cost you anything. It basically just shows that patience will win you the fight, because doing this, it takes time, and if he does it at some point, then it's going to benefit you, and if he doesn't, it's not going to harm you in any way. So it's awesome. Alright, real quick, I want to show you guys the perspective of your opponent in this, because it's nice to know what it looks like for them. Can help you. So let's start off with, if you stand on top and you go for a jump, and you'll see how little I can hear. I don't know that he jumped there until he actually hits this wall, or actually until he lands, but it's very similar if he times it right. So it's a lot harder for me to realize which direction he's going. That's number one. Number two, I kind of want to show you guys that trick I showed you earlier. So if he taps the wall, then jumps up, go for an aggressive edit. Timing goes a little bit off there, but it's still kind of, even if that would have worked out the way it did right there, it would have still worked out because I would have had to move like that. It would have been very awkward for me. Let's do it one more time though. Hold up. Yep. And as you can see, I'm completely oblivious to what's going on. Alright, let's talk about our final topic, last resort, left-hand peaks. So what I mean with that is if you have low mats, or if you're just in a really bad spot and you need to basically make the best out of a bad situation, you can use movement to your advantage. So for example, if you don't have any mats, he takes your wall, and you're like, oh, this is not good. You can either stand here and just die, or you can try to make a last resort kind of move where you first go this direction, and then you kind of flying out like that. So the reason this is really good, or at least it's better than doing nothing, is because while you're over here, then they're thinking, oh, I've got a really good peak, so they're going to try to go for an angle. And while they do that, you suddenly come flying out, and it's a lot better than just standing here doing nothing. So let's show kind of what it would look like. Okay. So that's kind of how it would look like. Obviously, it's still not the best situation, but again, it's better than standing here. It's basically the best last resort option you have when you don't have any materials and you need to take a left-hand peek. This is the case for any left-hand peek, by the way, or any bad peek. This is kind of an example, but it would be the same when there's a window or something. It's just when you're in a bad spot, just start slow and then be explosive. So suddenly come flying out. Alright guys, that's going to be it for today's video. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe because I'll be posting more of these kind of videos soon. And hope you enjoyed. See you later.